Peace be upon you, dear brothers and sisters. Today in America, an event straight out of apocalyptic lore unfolded. As if the signs of the end times had finally come to pass, the skies opened with a rain, not of water, but of blood, accompanied by vicious, bloodthirsty fish. The calamity struck without mercy, leaving people in terror and confusion as they scrambled for shelter from what many now claim is the wrath of divine judgment. For weeks, a raging fire had been consuming Los Angeles like termites devouring wood, hollowing the city from within. Amid this inferno, desperate prayers were offered in churches and cathedrals as the faithful implored for rain to quench the flames. Then, when the heavens finally began to weep, the downpour was far from what anyone had expected. Instead of gentle droplets, the sky unleashed a torrential cascade of red rain and, shockingly, fish that pelted the earth with a ferocity that defied belief. Witnesses' screams pierced the air as crimson drops fell like a macabre blessing from above. If it weren't for cameras capturing every horrifying moment, many might have dismissed the event as a hallucination. The unfiltered footage shows the sky darkening as heavy, blood-red raindrops descend, leaving onlookers in utter disbelief. The rain, coming down with deliberate malice, forced many to question the nature of this strange meteorological occurrence. Before we dive deeper into the heart of the story, if you are visiting our channel for the first time, please subscribe and click the bell icon so you won't miss any updates. Now, let us take you on a journey through the unfolding events that have gripped America, in Los Angeles and, remarkably, Florida, a state where unusual weather phenomena are not entirely unheard of. For weeks, as the relentless flames ravaged Los Angeles, its residents turned to their houses of worship. In churches and cathedrals, Christians prayed fervently for relief, trusting that divine intervention would bring the much-needed rain. Simultaneously, thousands of miles away in Florida, where tropical storms and waterspouts are a natural part of life, an eerie calm settled over the region. Florida, known for its unpredictable weather and sudden downpours, suddenly found itself entwined in this bizarre event. As dark, heavy clouds gathered over Los Angeles, scientists explain that such phenomena, though rare, can be attributed to a mix of environmental pollution and unusual chemical reactions. Industrial pollutants mixing with moisture sometimes trigger reactions that tint raindrops red. In Florida, where warm, humid air meets cool sea breezes, similar natural processes occur. Yet nothing could have prepared anyone for the horror that was about to be unleashed. At first, the rain appeared to be a spectacle of nature's fury. The droplets, though tinted red by chemical reactions in polluted air, seemed like a twisted imitation of holy water. People cheered and recorded the rain, believing it to be a miraculous sign that God had heard their prayers. But as minutes passed, a terrifying revelation emerged. The raindrops were not merely red, they carried a ghastly secret. As the rain intensified, so did the terror. What began as a surreal spectacle soon turned into a nightmare. The red rain revealed its true nature when it became apparent that the downpour was accompanied by a shower of ferocious, carnivorous fish. Eyewitnesses described the scene in chilling detail. As the sky opened, hundreds of tiny, vicious fish plummeted from above. Their scales glistened with a sinister sheen, and their needle-like teeth were visible even from a distance. Initially, the sight of fish falling from the sky provoked laughter and disbelief. But that amusement quickly turned to horror. People screamed as the fish pelted them like shards of glass. One by one, individuals on the street fell to the ground, clutching limbs and faces as the fish sank their teeth into flesh. The carnage recalled scenes from a dystopian horror movie, but this was all too real. The chaotic images streamed live on social media, turning the event into a global phenomenon no one could ignore. Meanwhile, in Florida, where residents had grown accustomed to bizarre weather, the skies turned dark and ominous. Meteorologists familiar with waterspouts that sometimes lift small marine creatures into the air explain that such phenomena occur when a waterspout sucks up fish from nearby waters and deposits them inland. Yet the combination of blood-red rain and these predatory fish was unprecedented, even for Florida. The same process that might explain isolated fish rain events could not account for the aggressive behavior of these creatures. As the red rain and fish assault continued, a palpable sense of dread gripped the population. Those who had once celebrated the miraculous rain now found themselves trapped in a living nightmare. The very rain they had prayed for had become an instrument of torment. Desperate citizens fled for cover, seeking shelter in homes, cars, or makeshift barricades along the streets. In a surreal twist, the churches and cathedrals that had been centers of hopeful prayer turned into scenes of frantic escape and mass hysteria. A priest who had moments earlier declared the rain a sign of divine mercy now scrambled to warn his congregation as the fish began their assault. "This is not the blessing we expected," he cried, trying in vain to protect his flock from the relentless barrage. Yet nature itself had turned against them. Amid the chaos, emergency services rushed to the scene. Fire brigades, already stretched thin by raging fires, now had to contend with a new threat. Senior rescue teams quickly issued orders. The falling fish had to be neutralized immediately. Firefighters began spraying chemicals and even used bursts of flame in a desperate bid to end the bizarre downpour before more lives were lost. The situation grew dire by the minute. With each passing second, the sky transformed into a sinister canvas, painted in shades of red and darkness. The ground, slick with blood-like rain, was littered with injured and, in some cases, lifeless bodies. Eyewitnesses reported hundreds wounded by the razor-sharp teeth of these airborne predators, and preliminary estimates suggested up to 500 individuals had already succumbed to their injuries. The once bustling streets of Los Angeles now resembled a scene of apocalyptic devastation, with ambulances wailing in the distance as emergency crews raced to transport the injured to hospitals. For those who survived the initial onslaught, the terror did not end with the fish rain. As dusk settled over the ruined city, a heavy, suffocating fog rolled in. A natural consequence of extreme weather conditions and environmental pollutants saturating the atmosphere. This impenetrable fog added another layer of dread, making it nearly impossible to see the treacherous ground ahead. Panic spread as people huddled together, fearful of the unknown horrors lurking beyond their sight. Then came an unexpected twist. Amid the overwhelming terror, a broadcast emerged from dedicated scientists and meteorologists. They explained that the phenomenon, as bizarre and terrifying as it appeared, was the result of a complex interplay of natural processes. In Florida, similar occurrences had been recorded, though never as catastrophic, as waterspouts sometimes lift marine life into the air only to deposit it elsewhere. In Los Angeles, however, extreme air pollution and unusual chemical reactions had amplified the process dramatically. The red hue of the rain was due to industrial pollutants reacting with naturally occurring compounds in moist air, while the aggressive behavior of the fish was likely a stress response from prolonged captivity in turbulent, oxygen-deprived waters before being expelled by the storm. This scientific explanation, though providing some insight, did little to alleviate the terror. For many, the event was a harbinger of doom, a sign that the world was hurtling toward an irreversible apocalypse. The once proud declarations of religious leaders who had assured their congregations of divine protection now rang hollow against this nightmare. In dramatic irony, the very institutions that had promised salvation found themselves powerless before nature's unbridled fury. As the relentless assault from the heavens continued, surreal scenes played out on screens across the country. People around the world watched in disbelief as footage captured the unthinkable. Fish with serrated teeth, lacerating flesh, red droplets pooling like blood on the pavement, and citizens fleeing in terror from what was supposed to be a blessing. In one particularly shocking moment, a man collapsed on the sidewalk, clutching his neck as if bitten by a venomous creature. His fall was met with panicked screams and frantic attempts by bystanders to help, thwarted by the chaotic downpour. Then the skies churned with dark, ominous clouds that rumbled like the drums of doom. Lightning flashed and thunder shook the heavens as if nature were in a vengeful rage. In a twist that chilled even the hardiest skeptic, the ground beneath the terrified crowd trembled. With dreadful finality, the earth seemed to buckle, and from the swirling vortex above, a torrent of tiny fish began to rain down in a deluge. The sight was so horrifyingly surreal that many onlookers stood frozen, eyes wide with disbelief as they witnessed what can only be described as nature's own retribution. In the midst of this apocalyptic tableau, one message rang clear through the terror and despair. Humanity had been warned. The heavens had unleashed a punishment so severe that it defied rational explanation. a punishment that some believed was foretold by ancient texts and apocalyptic prophecies. The blood rain, the relentless wildfire that decimated Los Angeles, and the vicious airborne fish combined to create a scene both awe-inspiring and horrifying. Even as emergency services struggled to contain the disaster and rescue teams continued their desperate efforts, the event left a lingering question in the hearts of all who survived. What next? The natural world, in all its beauty and brutality, had shown that its processes could escalate into forces beyond human control. While scientists worked to understand the chain of events, from chemical reactions in polluted air to the formation of deadly waterspouts that lifted marine life, the undeniable truth remained. The Earth had spoken. For a brief, harrowing moment, the skies over Los Angeles and Florida bore witness to an otherworldly spectacle, a reminder that nature, when pushed to its limits, can unleash consequences that shatter human expectations. In the wake of this calamity, survivors were left to piece together the fragments of their shattered lives, haunted by the memory of a day when the heavens rained destruction. As the dust settled and authorities worked tirelessly to restore order, one thing was clear. This was not the end, but a grim portent of what might come if humanity continued on its current path. The delicate balance between nature and civilization had been disturbed, and the lessons learned on that fateful day would resonate for generations. And so, as people across the nation, whether in the devastated streets of Los Angeles or along Florida's storm-worn coastlines, gathered in prayer and sought refuge from the unfolding apocalypse, the event became a stark reminder of nature's unpredictable power. It was a call to action, urging us all to heed the warnings woven into the very fabric of our world. In the end, whether through divine intervention or natural processes beyond our control, the message was unmistakable. The time for complacency is over.